This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be sharing 3 quick tips on how to make better street photos. And before we get into tip number 1, I just want to emphasize that these are standards that I hold to myself to make great photos, and I just want to share these things with you. And of course you may disagree, and I want to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below if you have any. Alright, this is going to start off very opinionated, but I think that tip number 1 is to actually have eye contact in your photo, or at least be able to see the subject's eyes in your photograph. Because I think that photographing the back of people's heads is pretty lazy and doesn't really make for a good street photo. My thoughts on that take is just pretty much based off of the fact that anybody can do that. I can go out in the streets and just take the picture of back of people's heads and kind of like hide behind them, and I don't know, I don't really see the showcase of skill or even courage, because I know that there's so much anxiety in photographing someone who looks straight into the camera, or worse, looks straight at you. And on the flip side, I'm not saying that the harder it was to take the photo, the better it is. I don't think that's necessarily a correlation, but I'm just saying that eye contact and being able to see the subject and their eyes has that relatability between the audience member and the photograph. Because if you and I are going to agree that street photography is kind of like a snapshot of humanity in any way, shape, or form that it could be, whether it is out on the street or somewhere else, I think being able to see that person's eyes, their full face, and their full emotion in whatever they're expressing is very important to making a great, emotionally impactful work of art. And I don't really think that's going to be achieved if it's going to be the back of their head. Okay, so even if you don't have eye contact in your street photograph, I think you can definitely get away with it if, for example, there's a group of people and they're all looking in one direction, because you kind of have that like motif or that repetitiveness in the photo. Or if it is going to be the back of someone's head, are they looking at something interesting? Because that could act like a almost leading line of your eyes going from that person's back of the head, but you see that they're looking at something, and then your eyes are drawn to that clock tower or that explosion in the background. I could see that being a way of still having an impactful photo without having eye contact. Opinionated tip number 2, I think that getting closer to your subject, a lot closer than you might be comfortable with, will actually make for a better photograph. I think that taking street photos on a telephoto lens is pretty lazy. You get to be comfortable from your little zone, and you get to shoot down 200 millimeters and maybe get some silhouettes. And sometimes silhouettes are great. They're a cliche for a reason, because it used to be good back in the day, but you're not really putting that much effort into making that photo. Closing that gap between you and the subject creates that level of intimacy that people can sense in your photograph. Even the focal length that you use. Right now, I'm probably at like 50 millimeters for making this video right now. And if I close it down to 28 and I get closer, you can kind of feel a little bit of that, you know, distance being closed up. That's why a lot of vloggers out on YouTube shoot with a 16 millimeter lens. It's wide, but they're close to the lens so that you feel like you're there with them. It mimics how we actually see things. We don't see things in 50 millimeters. I think our actual vision is either like 18 millimeters or 21. I don't really know, but something along those lines. So having that wide angle of view, but having it be very close, mimics how we consume the world. So if you're out there with your 28 millimeter, with your 21 millimeter, or whatever lens, take one step closer than you are comfortable with, and I feel like that'll start to break bounds and barriers between where you are right now in your street photography and where you can be in terms of quality. So already we have very 2 opinionated tips that really cause a lot of anxiety if you are either new to street photography or if you're just not used to practicing other than them. I am not saying that it's easy to do. These first 2 tips are already like really hard for me to do, but with a lot of practice, I've gotten used to overcoming that fear. And there is a little bit of a practice that I do to kind of make myself invisible in groups of people. I'll go into that in another video because I'm still kind of working out on processing that. But these first 2 tips are going to be hard. And before we get into the final tip, let's thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace is a beautiful all-in-one website builder that you could use to create an online photography portfolio. It's really easy to pick and choose a template to be your new home for your work. I picked the Avenue template because I've always been a fan of the grid layout, and now there's a new home for my all-time favorite Wyoming photos. Squarespace makes it really convenient to upload and rearrange photos to your choosing with live updates, and if you ever hit a problem, you can contact their 24/7 customer service to get you going again. You can start a free trial today at squarespace.com/ChrisChew. Use my code ChrisChew at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Alright, and now my opinionated tip number 3 is to photograph something that's actually happening. It's really easy for any of us to take a flight to New York, pop out into the streets, photograph a lot of things happening, but in those photos there's actually nothing happening. I for sure have gotten very excited at one point when I practiced those first 2 tips of getting closer and getting eye contact, and I'm like, whoa, like I get to see these people's faces, there's so much going on. But then looking back and I'm like, there's actually nothing happening in this photo, and it doesn't really mean anything. I will admit, sometimes they're just cool for the vibes. Vibes are cool, but if you want to make a more impactful photo, just wait around for these people to get comfortable, or try to do some kind of action like raising their hands, maybe reaching out towards each other, hugging each other, some sort of real, genuine human interaction. Even some of the photos that I like to consume are very funny, humorous street photos, like either someone's about to sneeze and someone caught the mid-sneeze, or they just spilled a bunch of spaghetti and they're trying to clean it up. That's still something that's happening, and when you see that kind of photo, it'll either make you laugh, but anything to really elicit some sort of emotion through your photograph is usually done when you're capturing something that's happening. But sometimes you wait around, you're fishing on the street corner, and there's nothing actually happening, but there are a lot of folks just standing by. You can create your own action by adding motion blur in, and that can usually be done if you're in the shade and you use a flash. And I throw my Leica M6 on 1/30th of a shutter speed. I close my aperture up to maybe about f11, f16. I fire off my flash, and with that movement, I have a lot of motion blur in the background, but the flash freezes anything that is illuminated by that flash. So these subjects right here are frozen in time. They're not really motion blurry, but everything in the background is. So it adds more energy to a rather static scene. Okay, we've fired off a lot of opinionated tips. We're gonna go over some of my photos right now of what I think was bad in them, what kind of worked in them, and if they were satisfactory enough, if they were good, or if they were just straight out bad. All right, time to review some of my mediocre, good, and bad photos. And remember, these are just opinions, and these are standards that I hold to myself. I'm extremely hard on my own techniques and my compositions, and I feel like that's the only way that I think that I myself can get better at it. So let's jump on into it. All right, so photo number 1, solid back of the head. I can't even see a single face. The dude's head is completely gone. I can't relate to this in any form of humanity at all. Yeah, they're hugging each other. It looks like a genuine emotional moment. It's center composed. Nothing happening to the left and right of them. Bad photo. Very bad photo. Black and white photo is even more of a cliche for this. So give it a 0 out of 10. All right, so photo number 2, we got some eye contact a little bit. We get to see this kid's genuine weird face he's making. I don't know why he's doing that. He is clearly standing out from his family because he's looking in the opposite direction than them. Too many back of the heads, but a little bit more energy in this photo because of his weird, genuine face. Not much going on. I would give this photo a 1.5 out of 10. All right, we got 3 subjects in frame, and we get to see all of their faces. One of them, actually 2 of them are looking at me. One of them is pointing at me. So I remember my pits sweating immediately after I took this photo because I thought they were going to confront me or yell at me. We got eye contact, we got face, but they're only walking. Nothing's really happening. We got kind of some commonality in the subjects. There's 2 redheads. That's it. Not much going on. Give this photo a 2.7 out of 10. All right, this video has no real eye contact, but we're truncating their faces, probably unintentionally. We got a baby doll in hands and an empty stroller. So subject material is somewhat interesting. There's kind of a story there, I guess. So there, that adds some points to it. But there's not enough faces going on. It doesn't always have to have one, but it definitely helps with the relatability or humanity aspect of this photo. So I will give this a 3.3 out of 10. All right, so for this photo, I was actually pretty close to this family. I have no idea how they didn't notice me. I probably just stood there long enough that I was ignored. So we got that closeness factor. I was shooting at 28 mil. We got a nice color palette, and we have a whole array of expressions happening. That girl in the middle is clearly disgruntled. One on the right is pretty annoyed as well by whatever the heck is going on. Maybe that's the mom on the left side just looking up at whatever the dude is saying. So there's a lot going on, and the girl pointing as well. We got like the whole face. We got a whole array of expressions. Story's cool. Composition is all right. I would give this a 6.7 out of 10. Yes, the typical lone subject in the photo street photography style. Very cliche. He's looking outside of the frame, so he's not even drawing attention towards the middle of the frame. The background is not even important to the story. Super cliche. 1 out of 10. So as you can see, it is very hard to make a good street photo. I don't even have a good example for you right now without exposing some of the work that I want to put in a gallery or a book. But this is what I'm trying to say. Like, these tips that I shared with you are going to be very hard. If they were easy, then anybody could do it. I feel like I've made a lot of progress over the years. Like, I showed you a couple of the back of the head photos that I took 2 years ago, I think. And those were terrible. That was an absolute garbage fest. And I've gotten so much better. I really wish I could show you some of the work that I've actually made, but they will have to wait. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment down below about what you think about this topic. Subscribe down below, like the video, comment, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.